comfortable up there?
They're comfy. Now you're about to sit on your microphone, so you might need to. You're sitting on your microphone.
You'll be very embarrassed.
What a way to start.
That was the chair, by the way.
Well, hi, Doll.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
So this is not your first time in Ireland, but how are you enjoying your first Dublin Comic Con?
This is the most wonderful Comic Con there is in the whole world, I think is the correct answer to say. It's fantastic.
I coached him well.
This is what, the 5th or 6th, 7th year?
9th.
9th! My God.
Oh yeah, note to everybody, we're 10 years old next year.
Woo-hoo. Who's been for the 9? Who's done all of them?
Some diehard fans here.
That's fantastic. Will you be here next year? Yes! That's incredible.
Yeah.
I think the first one of these I did was not in Dublin, but the first kind of convention-y was 20 years ago this year.
That was the Lord of the Rings one, wasn't it?
It was the Lord of the Rings one before the movies had even come out. And my friend Mark Ferguson, who is Gilgalad, who's the boss elf, and he literally is in the movie for half a frame. You see him grabbed by Sauron, burst into flame, dead. But he shot a lot more, and he's Gilgalad. And we both got invited by Dirk, who ran FedCon, which was a Star Wars-y show, Star Trek. And we both, the movie hadn't come out. We were like, what is this thing? We didn't know. And so we went, and we just had the most amazing time. And I didn't know what conventions were. I didn't know the level of craziness that there was in conventions, and just the joy of it was, it'll be our 20th anniversary this year.
I know, it's crazy. And with conventions and everything, like I remember we chatted before the show kicked off, and you were so passionate talking about just how much you actually just love doing these types of shows. And there was a phrase that I'm definitely going to be coining, which is you got to let your inner geek roar. Like, come on, how good is that? But like, that is the thing. It's just, you just sort of dive in and you get involved, and you're just sort of like, this is great fun.
Yeah. Well, it's why I ended up doing this. It's that when I was a kid, it's, dressing up and make believe and telling stories. And I was very fortunate. My mother had been a kindergarten teacher. So as a kid, both my mother and father, they would read to us, and we always had books, and we had, drawing. And so that magic of when you're a child and you're allowed to just really be creative and make believe, and it's real, and it's pretend, but it's still real. And then as we get older, we're told that, stop doing that, that's silly, do something real. And fortunately, I kind of managed to find a way to keep doing the pretend. And I remember telling my parents that I was going to be an actor when I was about 15, and they were just devastated. They were like, oh God, he's going to live at home until he's 50.
But I suppose because like you were saying to me the other day, you were actually born in Fiji and then you moved to New Zealand when you were young.
Yeah.
So you kind of hail from two very like rugby-minded countries, so to speak. So like, was rugby ever big in your life?
No, I was useless at rugby. I just couldn't. I did in 3rd form. Do you have forms here?
We say like class, and then it's like year. So like secondary school will be 1st year, 2nd year, and then it's 1st class. So if you're in
secondary
form,
is when you're like 11, 12?
Yeah, 12 up is secondary school.
So so whatever that beginning of high school is. So we would have primary school, intermediate, which is 2 years when you're 10 and 11 or 11 and 12 or something. And then 13 to 17, 18 was high school. So I don't know. So it was my 3rd form, which is like, I think I was all of 12 or 13. And there was PE, which sport, and then there was a drama class. And the drama class was only about 5 of us. So they just scheduled it at the same time as PE. So it was my great way to escape having to do sport, which generally in those days, I think it's got better, but back when I was a kid, the PE teachers generally were kind of angry, violent, monstrous creatures who liked hurting children. And so PE would just be like, run round the block, jump. And, they just shouted at you. And if you weren't particularly brilliant at sport, then it was just a nightmare. So I discovered that I could go and do drama where you just got to dress up and be silly. And that got me out of PE. So that's really why I do the job I do now.
And were you still based in New Zealand when, when Peter Jackson sort of came to town and was starting
Well, he was in town already because he comes from there. But
when he was setting up, because I heard, now this may or may not be true, but did you actually get involved before getting cast?
Yes,
because you were actually doing the storyboard stuff, wasn't it?
When the Lord of the Rings was first going to happen, it was going to be with Miramax, and they wanted 2 films. They didn't want to do 3, and so 2 scripts were made. So there was cut halfway through Return of the King, and there were a group of us got together. So there was maybe 12 of us, and we all went down to Wellington, where Peter was based, and we stayed in a recording studio for 2 weeks. I think we were down there, and we just did a radio play of these scripts. And so I got to play Frodo, Legolas, various other characters, and so we all got to play a few characters, and we every time a new character came in or there was a monster or something, we'd all be going, oh, what if it sounds like this? They didn't go with that one. They went, that's just bad Yoda. That's not clever at all. But so we got to record the 2 films, and this was going to be used to with films particularly. Sometimes they make a thing called an animatic, which is the storyboard, which is like a cartoon version of what you're going to see, and then it's animated. On this, they were animating it slightly, and we would do the script over, so they could then show it to the Americans and go, this is what it looks like. So previs or pre-visualization or animatic. So we did that, and then Peter, Fran, and Philippa had always wanted to do the 3 books as 3 films, not the 2. And the deal, Miramax went away, and then New Line or Fine Line came in, and so they were then allowed to do the 3 movies, which was great for us because we got to go back to studio and then do all 3 again. So it was it was a really fun time. None of us, we knew it was going to be pretty cool, but none of us, well, I didn't anyway, realize just how ridiculous the films were going to be, and how it was the first time I got a glimpse of how much people loved these films, because already the internet was reasonably new, and it'd been around for a bit, but it as a tool of communication was reasonably new. So there was a group, One Ring Net, and they were angry at the beginning. They were like, don't you screw up this! This is our book, we'll kill you! And Peter very wisely went, I get it, because it's his book too. And they read those books so many times, and they were still reading them as we were shooting, because they would alter things or they'd have an idea. And so they are true geek fans. So when they were putting this together, it was the same intent. They just had this amazing arsenal of films to make it. So very quickly, Peter, rather than fending off OneRing.net and these strangers on the internet, he went, come on in. Let me share what I can share, and some things will be secret, but let me assure you, because you're the people who are going to come and watch it, hopefully, that I am making this with the best intent, or we are making this with the best intent. And I really think they did. I think that shows when you watch it. They love these stories as much as everyone else does. So it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, when people are passionate about something, it definitely comes across in their work. And I'd say for you, were you expecting then, once they were actually starting to shoot, you were kind of just like, hey, give me a call, let me know what's going on, because you were technically voicing Frodo already, so were you kind of just
I should have played Frodo, obviously. I mean, Elijah would. Little Elijah. He's the best. Yeah, I don't know. It's New Zealand is very small. New Zealand, how many people live in Republic of Ireland?
5 million.
5 million.
We just
Is that
literally
in
had
the
a
Republic
census
or is that in
recently.
Ireland total? In the Republic. Because, yeah, New Zealand's 5 million. And so we all kind of know each other. And when you grow up in the industry there, you work with everyone. So you just kind of have this assumption that you're going to be in everything because there's only so many people to go around. So whatever show comes to town, it's like, oh, what are you going to be in it? Oh, I'll be this or that. So I think probably my arrogance at the time just totally expected to be in it. But I was thrilled because there's not a lot of New Zealanders in it, and it was a brief and wonderful thing to be involved with, and just the joy of doing it at the time was great. But the thing that does blow me away still is 20 years later, I'm meeting people who just love the books and love the story and love the films, and it's a great way to be part of the kind of the crazy madness that is this world, which is lovely.
Yeah, and I know it's like even with like the character himself, who was in a couple of scenes, and especially say in the Two Towers, a very iconic moment.
Which isn't in the book, apparently.
That's what I was going to say.
There was a
Apparently it's not
day
in the book.
at lunch. The guy I play, Hal Deer, gets killed at Helm's Deep.
Yep.
And we were at lunch one day because a lot of the shooting was like through it. They were still just reworking. They never stopped working. And sometimes, script changes would come that day, but often subtle. And then at lunch one day, Philippa Boyens came up and went, "Hey, Peter wants to kill you." And it was just, oh God, what have I done? But and then said, look, we want to represent death and loss, because at the moment there's a big battle, but we need, and we can't kill Vigo. I was going, kill Vigo, let me take over. I'd be great. Or little Elijah, I've done him before, I can do him again. Legolas, wicked, not that hard. And so yeah, they wanted the moment of an immortal dying and sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was the most wonderful thing because it just meant I got to go back and play a lot more and experience the horror that was the shooting of Helm's Deep. But I would just come and go, so I kind of had it easy. But the full crew that shot that sequence, John McAfee, who was the second unit director, shot 3 months outside in winter, which is kind of like a winter here, just wet and cold, by the harbor in an old quarry. So the wind would come, the Arctic wind would come from Antarctica, Antarctic wind. And there'd be fake rain and there'd be real rain and just everyone. And everyone working at night. So people would sleep through the day, work all night, go home and sleep again. So everyone went crazy. And it was 3 months of cold night, winter shooting, where I would just come in for a week and go, oh, this is nice. Hi, everyone. Bye. And disappear again. But
didn't you have to sit in the makeup chair for quite a while? Because didn't the wig take a while to be applied on, or?
Yeah, it got any show when you start, especially if you have prosthetics or wigs, it's going to take 5 hours every day, and then it gradually gets quicker. The reason, I love tattoos. I think tattoos are the coolest thing, and if you can have a sleeve of tattoos, you're like the coolest. But anything like that for an actor means potentially another hour in the makeup chair in the morning, and when your call is going to be 4:30 in the morning, which means you have to get up at 3, or if you're traveling, it's further. You just want every moment of sleep. And your makeup artist is just going to hate you. And so when they're doing your eye, they're going to be going... So you kind of want to give them every opportunity. So what tends to happen is the process speeds up, and then you can whack it out in half an hour. But it's also a really lovely beginning to the day that you... you have a coffee, and it's where you gossip, and the buses, makeup buses usually have 4 to 6 seats going down, so there's people beside you, and everyone kind of has a catch up. Sorry, I'm burping. I just had lunch. Very rude. And also with rings, there was a fair amount of studio work, but there were a lot of real locations, and quite often you'd be in a hotel somewhere, you'd be picked up in the dark in the morning, driven maybe for an hour. Sometimes you get in a helicopter. It's very cool. And dropped off in the dark somewhere, and you're in a base camp with a whole lot of trucks and trailers and things, and you get taken into wardrobe or makeup or your trailer, and you get changed. So it's all dark, and you're just seeing your buddies and friends. And then once you're done, they go, right, we'll block in half an hour or something. You step out the door, and you're on top of the mountain, or you're in the most beautiful forest, or you're beside the sea, or these incredible spaces that a lot of locations weren't publicly available anyway, so you couldn't get to these spaces. So for us, it was just like every morning was like, God, I'm here. And you'd often have no idea, what you were going to see when you stepped out the door. So that was an incredibly cool bonus. I'm just thinking Ireland and New Zealand are so similar in so many ways. And we have a slightly warmer north. Do you have any is there any sort of tropically bits here? Not really, no. Who am I kidding? That's what sort of New Zealand. Those of you in New Zealanders, way down in the southern hemisphere, and it's long and thin. I think it's even longer than all of the UK.
Yeah, I think that is true.
And at the top, there's kind of, because it's flip side. So the north is sunnier, and then down south is the Antarctic, basically. And this is a Scottish thing than Irish, but various people, various kind of colonial settlers came through. But there's a place, Dunedin, which is down south, and with the boats coming through, there must have been a Scottish boat that was coming up going, right, where are we going to stay? Do we stay here where it's nice and sunny? Look at this. Oh, beaches, white sand. That's nice, isn't it? Keep going. Oh, rolling hills, green, nice. No, go down, further down. Oh, look. Black rock, gorse, heather, storms, freezing cold Arctic winds. Let's live there. So they all moved. So the Scots are all down in this really crappy bit of New Zealand. It's freezing cold. And we shot a fair amount down there. But it looks great, but you don't want to live there. But yeah. But in the sense of ridiculous locations that Ireland has that you can drive for half an hour and everything is different. And it's so astoundingly beautiful.
Yeah, because even when you were filming here for Rain, you were actually based in what is actually an area which is known for its rain, is actually over in Galway and Connemara and things like that. So because that was where
that the castle bit?
That's where Ashford Castle is based. So you actually I didn't know you lived in Ashford Castle while you were filming as well.
We show Rain, which was the French royal family in the 1500s, and the French castle was obviously shot in Ireland. And so between here and starts with S airports, Shannon. There is this castle, Ashford, and it's beautiful. It's an incredible castle. Excuse me. And the first season, they used it, they established it, and it was all a bit crap inside, it run down. But then it was bought and renovated. So when I joined second season, and we turn up, and it's it's so beautiful inside. It's full posh loveliness.
It's one of the most popular 5-star hotels in all of Europe.
Oh, it's amazing. And we were talking about this. There's a lot of castle hotels or manor houses that you get and you go, this is like my aunt's terrible basement. It smells of mold and it's horrible. But this was real flash. So we filmed there, but we also got the most perfect weather for 2 weeks. It was just blue skies and flawless. And then the next year came back and we didn't shoot at the castle. And we were based in Dublin, and we were shooting on the Guinness estate. There's a beach somewhere. Does anyone? I'm
and in
terrible
Wicklow
with names.
near there's the rolling hills. And
it's like an hour
Guinness
out,
Lake.
and there's amazing down cliffs and down to this beach, and we were doing a shipwreck scene. So we were just drenched in seawater, freezing cold. The executive producer's there and going, how are we going to do the soaking? He says, we're just going to get a bucket. And they just chuck water on us. And we spend a good 2 weeks just covered in water and sand. It's the coldest I've ever been. It's dirty old Irish freezing winter. And so we're on the beach soaking wet, and then we're up a hill soaking wet. And you get there, and because you have to match the beach where you've just been washed up, they throw another bucket of water on you. And we one of the giant Guinness estates, and this huge house. It's beautiful, but you couldn't see any of it because it was dirty Irish winter. So we're in this amazing location, but all you see is grey and rain coming this way and sleet and snow. So the second time wasn't quite as glamorous, but
I love how you just mentioned how the rain was coming this way, because I always remember Josh Hartnett was saying that when he filmed Penny Dreadful here, one of the things that he actually remembered most about Ireland was the sideways rain.
Well, it's great because it sneaks under the umbrella. It's very smart rain. Whatever you use to protect. But we because we were staying here in Dublin, strangely we didn't mind, because we just would come back to the hotel and then go, right, let's go out. And we would shoot in Canada, so we brought over not a huge Canadian crew, because we got fantastic crews here, but maybe there were about 20 of us. And that show, it was such a family, like it was a great show. We just adored each other. And so it was basically 20 mates going out, being miserable and cold in the day, and then coming back into Dublin. And of course we would go out. And the Canadian crew were just so enamored with Guinness. And you hear this all the time, but people get here and go, it's not like Guinness everywhere else. And so they're just chugging it back. But what happens with Guinness, if you're not used to it, and they're just farting like monsters. So you're doing a scene, and then even out on a hill, and then this waft just drifts over. And it's like, stop it! And they just, every night, 15 Guinnesses the next day on set. Dreadful. So I'm sure if you're Irish, you don't do that, because you're just...
No, they do.
civilized, fine, wonderful people. But yeah, it was, sorry, I'm just ranting, but it's a really...
You can rant away. This is your panel.
It was a very, very, very good time.
When I was looking at your resume, actually, it is so varied. But one thing that did strike me was that there was a lot of roles that you've taken that actually just have such elaborate costumes and things like that, including, of course, Spartacus. Like Glaber, yes, he had the same sort of outfit, so you weren't really changing often, but it was still
no,
it was
dirty,
elaborate.
Same old. Often, actually, this happens a lot, which you might have picked up in a lot of fantasy stuff. The characters never change. You think Lord of the Rings, they never washed. They would have stunk. Dirty, filthy hobbits. And I did a show, Legend of the Seeker, and I was emperor of all the world. I was richer than God. I just had one frock every day. Sometimes I'd take it off. Sometimes, and I also, you hopefully never saw it in the show, but this amazing, beautiful costume. And I thought, there'll be some great boots or something really comfortable underneath. I had Bidner shoes. What's like number one shoe warehouse? Do you have something like that? Like the crappy place where you can buy really cheap shoes, but they look great, but they're not very comfortable. These were like a pair of terrible, just black. First job you have, you buy yourself a $20 pair of shoes, and it's like, oh, look, they're nice.
You're like describing the shoes I wore yesterday.
The what?
The shoes I wore yesterday, essentially.
No, but it was the silly thing. You have this fabulous costume, and then pull it up, and there's just a pair of black socks and like an accountant's pair of shoes underneath. Sorry if there's any accountants or shoe salesmen who work at number one shoe warehouse. But we also the going on about body smells. Thing I used to love doing is because with Glaber had in Spartacus there was a underneath you where the Romans would have like a little cotton like a mini dress, like a nightie. And then it was a leather breastplate strapped on top, and it would get so sweaty and disgusting. But if you sort of sucked in like that, and I'd do this at the end of the day, and I'd choose a different member of the crew every day to do it. They loved me. And if you sort of suck all this in, hold here, and this is all solid. This is just a plate. Walk up to someone, and go, hey, and as they come up, go, hey, and it would blast fetid, dirty, sweaty belly air up into their face. They really loved me. They thought I was so funny. So that was I shouldn't talk, you see. I should not share these things.
I'm starting to think you're quite the trickster on set now.
well, it's, you've got to keep, that is one of the great joys of this job, is you get to just play, and crews are, I always describe it as carny folk. We are, the most joyful bit is the being on set. So hopefully the job is stimulating and wonderful, but being part of that kind of carnival group is, and you love the people you work with. We all get very good at intimate relationships where we all just know everything, and then being really good at going, thanks, see you on the next one, or see you the next time. But though, I just adore those kind of relationships, and they have to put up with you. If you're an actor, they have to put up with you. So you can, if they fart at you, you can send your belly air at them. That's what I feel.
It's all fair and games.
It's all fair games. So.
With Glaber, you just seemed to relish playing such a, careful of my phrasing here.
There's some children here.
It's such a baddie, shall we say?
What a very, very baddie he was. Yeah, it's lovely. Often when you're sort of putting a character together, there's a whole, various people are involved. Obviously, you start with a script, but there is kind of a world building that happens when you begin a show. That it's the weird thing where you're trying to get everyone onto to share a same vision, that you can, every world, even if it's set now in supposedly the real, still has to be created collectively to sort of sell the story. So, and often if you're playing someone who does terrible things or whatever, the actor part of you, and for the benefit of the show and for you keeping your job, you need to kind of go, how can I make them love me? How can I win them over? So you'll often, actors are often going, I'm bad, but look, my heart isn't. Please love me. And Glaber was such a lovely freedom where it was like, no, let's just make him so despicable. I'm stopping many words come out my mouth, but make him unforgivable. And he was bullied, and he's all those cliches of the bully's back, but it was so lovely going, I do not need to put any effort into trying to ask you to like me. I would rather if you all went.
Sometimes you just want a person, you want to hate them. You love to hate them kind of thing. And that was exactly what the character was. And
there are moments later on where there are more hateable people in the show that you can sort of win one up by just, them being more hateful than you. But it was really nice. And it's great therapy to go to work each day and, stab people and shout at them and crucify them. And it's really good. I recommend it.
Has there ever been a role that, looking back, you're kind of like, oh, dang, I really wish I'd gotten that one? One that's
everyone. You're just part of the. It was sort of happening beforehand, but part of COVID, during COVID and post COVID, is one of the awful things you have to do as an actor, and you kind of at any stage of your career, you still, even if you're Brad Pitt, sometimes they don't, there's Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and someone else up for the role, so even Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt lose out on stuff. They probably never do, but anyway, so but not Tom Cruise. So there's always auditioning. You always have to audition, and back in the day it used to be like you'd go into rooms with people and you'd get to know casting directors, and they'd sort of know you, and you go, okay, let's do it, and they were there, and sometimes the director would be there, and you could alter it and get sort of an idea of what's needed. More and more, and before COVID, and then post-COVID, it's pretty much all self-taping. So you are in a hotel room, or you're in your own house, and you're sticking up a camera and you're doing your acting in your living room. It's just ridiculous. It's so awful and terrible, and I try and do as little of it as possible, but when you're doing that, you spend a good 2 days, reading the script, making choices about the character, just getting it. You set it all up. You have to get a friend, hopefully an actor, someone who's good, to come and read with you, and so it's this process that takes a good 2-3 days of kind of going, a little bit crazy. And it's heartbreaking because you do it, and by the time you've done that work and you've altered yourself a little bit to kind of understand the character, you love it and you really want to play it. And there are so many of those now, and they just go out and you never hear another thing. And it's so that aspect of it is constantly heartbreaking. You know, it's not so much of like, I could have played Batman. It's just like every job that you wanted and you didn't get hurts a little bit because you go, ah. And sometimes you see it and you know, it's they cast someone absolutely different to you. Sometimes you see it and they cast someone and they're just amazing. Sometimes, you know, it's a movie star. So I would cast him in everything or her in everything. But other times you do see it and go, I was so much better. God, they're crap. And that makes it worse. It's just like, oh.
Does sting a little bit.
Does anyone out here have any? I'm not
No,
cutting you
I was actually
off.
about to throw it out to the floor now. So if people do have questions, we have
Because
two
I just want to stop
microphones here.
myself talking constantly about rubbish. Captain America?
I literally just walked in here to see what was going on. Who are you exactly?
My name is Nick Tarabay, and I played Asher in Spartacus. I was an... Sorry, there's children here.
Anyone have questions for Craig Parker?
But that's a very cool outfit.
Back over here.
Hello.
Hi.
Sir.
So I was just wondering, you mentioned about the wigs and Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. Which you find harder, the wigs and prosthetics, or like an agent's sorry, an agent's
I'm sorry, I'm going to do that. Can you do that whole sentence again? And I'm sorry,
Sorry, yeah, okay. Just you mentioned about the wigs and things, and
Yes.
but in terms of prosthetics, which do you find more difficult, being covered in paint or being covered, or just that sort of thing?
I thankfully have never... I don't think I've ever had full prosthetics. I've had like bits out. So we would have like ears stuck on and little bits of gluey stuff. Oh yeah. But I think doing full, I was talking to Nick about this earlier, like he just did a character with full prosthetics. And it would be, I just think it would be so awful. Because you're like 4 hours in the makeup chair in the morning and having this stuff on your face. And the wigs, if you're lucky enough to have a really good wig, they make it for you. So it's mapped to your own head. They cover you in Glad wrap. Do you call it Glad wrap here?
Cling film.
Cling film. And so they just wrap your head in this, and then they draw headline, and they put tape over it, so it becomes this solid thing. And then the shape is built, and then they individually tie real hair to it. So you get these beautiful wigs that fit you, and they become really quick to put on. So a good wig technician, makeup, hair artist, they can usually do it, you know, very quickly and make it look great. So I would go the wig every time. Though facial hair, always grow your own. Because maybe a fake mustache, but a fake beard always looks stupid. Just looks so. Yours is real, I'm taking.
I think so, yeah.
See, that's a good one. If you ever want to sell it, let me know.
Will do.
Cheers, man.
All right. Actually, we'll go this side here just so we can have a one-for-one sort of thing going on.
What was your favorite thing filming it on Rain?
This is not an accent thing. It's just the reverb is funny. Can you I have no idea what she's saying.
What was your favorite thing to film on Rain?
Every moment. Rain was, for those who haven't seen it, it's the Mary Queen of Scots married, who knew? I didn't know before it started, the French prince, and briefly was Queen of France, who knew? Before he died and she came back and then got her head cut off. Stuff happened in between. Ruined the show for those of you who haven't seen it. But it was just the most divine cast to work with, and we shot in Toronto, and most of us weren't from there, so we were all kind of tourists in a city that we just bonded together, and I just loved that cast. So every bit was amazing. But we would, for the first couple of seasons, where it was all set in France, every episode we would have a giant ball. There'd be we'd have a big party in the castle. And so for 2 days we would shoot this thing, and it meant the entire cast would be gathered all day, and we would just get naughty. So come 3 o'clock, this sugar crash happens where everyone just becomes so stupid and we think we're hilarious. And the crew just hate us because it's like, shut up, we just want to shoot. No, we have to giggle because this is hilarious. And Anna Popplewell started this. We started doing cheese jokes. And if we would just invent cheese jokes and we would share cheese jokes. And it's kind of like if you, children here, but apparently sometimes silly people in the past have taken big drugs and got crazy. And that's how it felt at sort of 3:30. We would just become hysterical about stupid cheese jokes. What did the Queen say? What happened to the Queen when she ate too much cheese? She got fatter and fatter. What did the cheese say when it looked in the mirror? Hello, me. Think about it. Now, this is a tricky one. How do you defuse a Welsh cheese bomb? Very Cathilly. Does anyone get that? Oh, God bless you. No one in America gets that. Okay, that's the end of it. But sorry, that doesn't particularly answer. But those actually were the fun bits. So every episode they got 2 days and just all together, wearing nice frocks, being very silly. And then we do lots of deep, meaningful acting as well. Thank you.
Those are the cheesiest jokes I've ever heard. Next.
Hey, those jokes were cheddar than any I could come up with anyway, so.
No, but work on it. Polish that. It's going to be great.
Bit of a serious question here. Out of all the smells mentioned tonight, what's the worst?
Definitely the Guinness part.
Thank you very much.
One more over here.
Hi, I just want to say I absolutely loved you in Legend of the Seeker. And by the way, I did get the joke, and I'm American. So I just want to know, how did you feel about your character in Legend of the Seeker, and did you enjoy portraying him?
I was an emperor in Legend of the Seeker, and it was the most fun. I had a very good wig again.
You just love a good wig.
Well, it was because there were times the story got a bit convoluted because it was a series of books that already there were 14 or so. There was some ridiculous number of Terry Goodkind's books, and ABC, which is Disney, picked up the show. Rob Tappert, who had done Xena and Hercules, and so they picked up this show, Legend of the Seeker, and it was all great, but clearly no one had read the books. And the books are really kind of violent, and there's some weird, kinky stuff that goes on in it. And this is ABC Disney. Have gone, yeah, well, here's some money. Here's like millions. And then obviously no one in the exec world had read it. And then, some guy in the mail pool had, go read this book. Tell me what you think. Write a report. And then the report finally, like 2 weeks before we started shooting, got to the top going, well, sir, there are the ladies who have these sticks that look like sticks, and they stick them in people, and it hurts them. And there's a whole series of weirdness. And so clear, then suddenly the message came down going, stop production! You shall not film. And so much had to be rewritten, and various characters that were really dodgy had to be taken out. So there was a major kind of reblast. And there were times when the story got really convoluted that even when we were shooting it, we had no idea half the time I was like, I'm not sure whether I'm magic, whether I'm dead, whether I'm real, whether I'm not. But I had this great wig and this really cool costume. So it was like, as long as the beginning of every shot would be, as long as we do this. Get the cape just right. Business shoes, covered, just like that. Hair, get the flick right. And basically the acting took care of itself. It was just, you just let the hair and the frock do its business. And the magic accountant shoes underneath just sit there waiting.
Thank you. Back over here.
Hello. My question is, when you play a villain, do you approach them like, yeah, he's a bad guy, let's just do the bad guy? Or do you approach them as being misunderstood?
I think the worst people in the world always believe that they are the best people in the world. And you get some, you get some characters, I won't, you could think of a politician perhaps who clearly knows that they are just making crap up the whole time, but they're doing it for a reason. But I'm always fascinated by those people who Glaber really believed he was stopping a terrorist. He really believed, and if you think about it, the Spartacus killed more people than Glaber did, and in Legend of the Seeker, Rahl wanted to bring about a better world. You know, he a little bit eugenic-y Nazi by, you know, a pure world, but these people genuinely, I think, believe what they want. There's a whole other world of villain who is just the straight con man who knows that they are just taking people. But I'm always fascinated by those people. And also those people who have been screwed over by other people. And rather than it making them a better person, it's just made them a worse person. And that was, I found fascinating with Glaber, that he was like just a disgusting little toad who'd been crapped on by everyone else. And rather than realizing, you know, maybe I can find a better way, just became toadier. And it's really fun to play.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got time for just 2 more questions. So luckily we have 2 more people.
Hellfire Club.
T-shirt snap.
I used to play D&D, and we invented it. Do you play D&D?
No.
How dare you wear the shirt? Okay. Anyone here play D&D? Is it a thing still?
Oh yeah, it had a massive resurgence. So
Well,
over
I
lockdown.
imagine it would. With yes, hex dice. We invented a game at school. I was really cool, obviously, at school. So we had D&D, obs, but then we made a game called KV, which was a cunning mix of humans and dinosaurs.
Oh.
Yeah, prehistoric game. And we also had Futura, which was set in the future. It had like lasers and cool things, but still magic. Sorry, your question. Non-D&D player. Don't be scared.
Who's your favorite actor? I guess.
Nick Tarabay. There are so many different actors I just think are amazing, and quite often it will be the last person I saw in something that they were really good in. Yeah, I don't know. I think women. I think Julianne Moore is one of my favorite people to watch at all times. Not sure about men. Who's yours? Does it rhyme with Greg Raka?
No.
Okay. Does it rhyme with Greg Breaker?
No.
Is he even in a top 100 list?
I don't even know who he is.
No, neither do I.
Last question. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Eli? Thank you very nice sword, Eli. Learn to play D&D. It's really good. You get dice that have more than 6 things on them. It's amazing. But you have to remember their names. It's like, oh, I use my hex attack baton. Okay, stopping. Hello.
Hi. What was your favorite actors to work with on the Spartacus set, and were there any funny moments?
There are others, and you know, and Lucy Lawless is just Lucy, who's amazing, and a huge sort of hero, someone I just adored before that show and had never met, but was Batiatus.
John Hannah.
John Hannah. You know, John Hannah is a god. John Hannah is one of the naughtiest people on earth too. So there is, when you do live theater, there's, you know, pranks you play on each other, and sometimes one of them is like grabbing someone's belt as they're about to make an entrance from the wings, and it's just like, I've got to just shut up. He would do that during takes. So you would be like around a corner with him, and they're talking, and the cameras are rolling, and you have to sort of arrive, and you'd go to walk, and he would be like, I got you, you can't do it. It's like, shut up, look at the guy. And then you have to walk out the corner and go, yes, I'm a Roman. So he's truly a terrible man, but and actually, I don't think he can hear, but I worked with Nick a lot. We became sort of not buddies. He was my 2IC for a while in the show, and he was so great to work with. He was fantastic, and every scene with him he's just interesting, and he makes these choices that are so funny and so real and so good. So many of the others I love, but we spent a lot of time doing scenes together. I just loved him. But I'd never tell him that to his face.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, folks, that's all we have time for today. Prepare for the pro contest coming on soon. Is Gandalf wanting to ask a question? Oh, sorry. Okay, go on. We've got time for Gandalf. Very quickly.
You're scared of him, aren't you? It's good night. Gandalf.
So just one question, just a bit of a twofer, but what was it like working on Lord of the Rings? And did you borrow anything from the props?
I was going, that's a very authentic costume you've got on there, Ian McKellen. Incredible to work on and to be beyond it after the fact of working on it, just to go, I got to be part of something so magnificent. But it was just fantastic to go and play on that. And the detail and the attention to detail with everything put in your hand, everything put on you, every set you walked into, the detail was astronomical. And it was just micronomical. It was incredible. And so, yeah, just beautiful. And the cast, delicious and wonderful. And that was such a privilege. And I did not take anything. My armor and sword and stuff, which is utterly beautiful. The pieces I didn't break. When you're doing a fight scene, you just hear these and go, oh, $1,000. Hair rips, oh, $2,000. But that all is part of, in some music, like it's a part of the Rings traveling thing. So I got a pair of ears that I kept, and they're rotting. They're probably evolved, grown into something. They're now, Cold Cannon. That's what is Cold Cannon? What's that about, people?
Cabbage and spuds.
Oh, just weird.
What is it? Craig, thank you so much for joining us here today. Everybody, Mr. Craig Parker.